One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's live edition here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. April 1st, 2012. No, I will not be playing any radio jokes on anybody. I can't stand April Fool's Day. I think it's the dumbest thing ever invented. Just one more stupid, quote-unquote, holiday to get people distracted. And honestly, any day that tries to get people to bring out the sheer stupidity in themselves just kind of irritates me. I really have no use for stupidity. And luckily, neither does my guest. He's a good friend of mine, fellow radio show host, researcher, webmaster, and ninja of truth. My good buddy, my brother from another mother, Mr. Mike Vail. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Hey, man, it's been a hot little minute, but I've been incommunicado as I am ducking the officials and spooks in the area of Northwest Florida.
Well, I'm glad I got you back on. It has been a while. You've been on walkabout.
Yeah, man, I've been working on some projects here and there and keeping my head down and my powder dry, if you will.
Getting ready for the inevitable.
I'm not like, doomsday prepping or anything.
Mike's hiding in his bunker.
I'm just getting my stuff together, man. I'm just getting my stuff together.
Yeah,
That's a different narrative.
Sometimes you got to unplug, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to, because otherwise you just go insane. I learned that, for doing a radio show for 5 years straight. So, got to unplug and just, get away for a little while and come back in increments.
Yeah, 10-4, dude. Sometimes you got to disconnect. You were doing it for a long, long time. But right before you went on walkabout, you were a bit frazzled, so you needed some time off. Actually, I think you've come back stronger than ever because now you built a whole new website, right?
Yeah. It's been up since last August. It already has 1,000 posts on it. Shameless plug, stratrisk.com. And the spooks, the NGOs.
Yeah, they go to your website like moths to a flame, dude. What's up with that?
I don't know, but I go back and I look at the logs and whether it's the Department of Defense Network Information Center, CENTCOM, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I don't know what it is, but somehow tragedy attracts them like moths to a flame.
Yeah, dude, Well, you write actually really good articles. All your stuff is written by you. It's not like you post, like sometimes you post things here or there, but usually, maybe written by somebody else, but usually your stuff is 100% yours, your take on things. And you're pretty on point, Mike. So you have a tendency to piss off the powers that be, as it were.
Well, like if I somehow, get like 2 to the head, like, pew, pew, do a nice eulogy of me and say to everybody that I was day one a moody asshole analyst who was antisocial but somehow loved everybody. I don't know how that gels together, but that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, Mike. Well, everybody in Radioland missed you, buddy. I know the chat room's buzzing. Everybody's happy that you're back. Everybody kind of misses having you around. So anytime you want to come on the air, you're more than welcome. And actually, I'm working on a project. I have to talk to you off air about it anyway, but I'm working on a project bringing together a bunch of different websites and stuff all together for something here on the network. So
awesome.
Yeah, I know. Now the conspiracy theories will be out. Popeye is trying to take over the truth movement.
Yeah, dude. Military style.
Yeah, totally not my intention whatsoever.
No, dude, you gotta push it up, pump it up, man, make it look good. And see, once you have like various conspiracy theorists going around, like not just one prevailing one, but a whole bunch of them swirling around like an alphabet soup, that is when it is so awesome.
Dude, you live right by pretty much Spook Central. Anything that has to do with the Air Force, the CIA is always involved, I've noticed. So you live right by, I know, close to an Air Force base. And we were talking about how you don't ever get chemtrails. I have video. I haven't even uploaded it yet. I took literally 20 minutes before I came on air in between covering for Jimmy X today and doing my show. I had some stuff to do, and I ran outside because they're spraying like crazy. Literally, it's to the point where you can't miss it. I mean, you have to be blind not to see what they're doing. It's blatant right in your face. They had a huge V in the sky today. And then there's other jets flying, at different multiple altitudes. You can see, like, while they're spraying, there's different jets because I live near an airport. So there's different jets flying in and out overhead. And none of them have any contrails except for the guys that are spraying and the crap that's just staying there in the sky. You're lucky you don't have that by you because they don't want to spray themselves, I guess.
No, I live near Eglin Air Force Base and also by the tourist haven, Hell on Earth, Destin, Florida. If you guys know where it is, big tourist attraction for the yuppies. Damn, I hate yuppies. Anyways, but, for us, we don't get chemtrails at all, but a lot of metropolitan cities do for some odd reason. But maybe that's why the cancer rates are exploding. But us, we get, they experiment on us. And they'll tell us like a month or a week later, oh, by the way, a particular one that was in a local newspaper here called Operation Chicken Little, where they were doing environmental modification, not like chemtrails, something different. Another one where they basically were, blasting out ultra low ULF, VLF, ELF frequencies, just like all like going through the whole spectrum, like you turn a dial on a radio, going through them all. So basically, they had said in newspaper, if you hear strange things in your inner ear, or like if you hear the devil telling you to kill someone, or your garage door goes up and down and jittery for no reason at all, last week that was us. That's how they roll.
That's nice. That's nice.
But I mean, seriously.
Meanwhile, someone's already slaughtered their whole family because they thought Jesus Christ just told them at 3 o'clock in the morning, you must kill everybody in the house.
I told you about the day they dropped the Moab when I thought it was like the big one, dude. I was like, I mean, it literally like felt like the foundation of the house was like off. Like, it was just like, boom! And like, it was like my doors are blown off and I'm getting up, I'm looking for the shotgun or something. I'm like sleepy eyed and then turn on the news channels thinking we got bombed. And it's Fox News. Eglin Air Force Base today dropped the mother of all bombs. It is a vacuum bomb called the Moab. And I'm like, I gotta move.
Yeah, it's like a daisy cutter on steroids.
It's crazy. I mean, the
you know what daisy cutters are? You ever see that?
Yes.
They drop it on the back of a C-130.
I mean, the premise is that, why drop a nuclear bomb, which of course destroys the infrastructure? What you want to do is like suck out all the oxygen away from people and have them die quickly while the infrastructure is perfectly intact.
Well, what's even worse is the area that they drop that thing in, it flattens anything in the immediate blast area, but that oxygen effect spreads outward around it.
Yeah.
So even if you're outside the blast radius, that sucking of the oxygen, it'll literally they find dead animals all the time, not from the shockwave, but because when they autopsy them, the oxygen was literally pulled out of their lungs. You know, it compresses it, and then the shockwave comes in, and that's it. Knocks their compresses their lungs, knocks them out, and that's it. You're done. No oxygen for you. The oxygen Nazi. All right, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. More with my buddy Mike Vail when we get back. You don't want to go anywhere. So when Mike and I were talking about before the show, and then first segment, we were talking about how they, you know, Mike's around the area where they test stuff at the Air Force Base, and they'll say, you know, a week later, if you heard voices in your head, you know, disregard that. That was us, you know, playing with our toys, right? Well, A&E did kind of the same thing. Now, remember these networks, all these networks are owned by, you know, 6 corporations and who really runs things behind the scenes. But A&E, and I forget what city it was in, but the video's up on YouTube. It's titled Ultrasound Billboard. And what they did was they had a billboard for this TV show called Paranormal State, which was about like people investigating haunted houses and stuff like that, and possessions and all this other stuff, and paranormal activity. Okay, and they had this thing. So what it's a beam. I don't remember if it's. I think obviously it's a frequency, but it penetrates your skull basically, and it's certain frequency. You'll hear it in your head without even hearing it in your ears, and they had it aimed at the street so it would hit a certain section of the sidewalk. And as people would walk down the street, you would hear, and I'm going to play it. It's going to be hard to hear, so I'll try to point it out. There's a lot of background noise. Obviously, it's just an open mic on a camcorder, so there's some street-level noise. But I'll try to point out. You're going to hear it say, "It's not in your head." And then you're going to hear it say, "What?" Well, you're going to hear it say, first it's going to say, "What was that?" And then it's going to say, "It's not in your head." It's really, 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 really creepy. But this is an example of what Mike was talking about. And this is a military-tested weapon. Why do they have it in a billboard aimed at the street? Now, Mike and I will get into that in a minute, but first I want to play this clip. Mike, check this out, because I know I haven't played this for you before, so I'll get your raw reaction afterwards.
Who's there? It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there?
I want to rewind it again so you guys can hear it. Back to about 15 seconds into the video. You're going to hear it say, "Who's there?" And that's not your imagination. I know it's kind of hard, but listen real close. I'll turn it up a little bit more. Hold on. Let me turn it up a little bit more so you guys can hear it. But it's really creepy. Listen to this. How creepy is that, Mike?
Man, look, I could tell you all about that technology. It started out as something they called synthetic telepathy, basically. And a particular scientist wanted to create a technology for the people who were deaf, right? Where the sounds would bypass the ears and go directly into the skull and resonate in the skull. And so basically the deaf could hear. The NSA came in and said, hell no. And this is in the 1970s here. They said, hell no. And that we're going to put a stop on this patent for, I think it was like 20-something years or so, 25 years. And basically that put the kibosh on it. But even back in 1974, they would take a tone, somewhere near like 15,000 hertz, and they would use a hypnotist's voice, let's say varying from like 300 hertz, like 4,000 hertz, and they would embed it into a track, send it directly into the skull through some sort of transmitter, and basically your brain would have no way of filtering out that information, because the brain filters information out through the ears, through your sensory information. And so basically, if I told Popeye that the sun's color was, black or brown, he'd be like, hell no, I've been out in the sun before, I know what it looks like. But when you're going directly to the skull, directly to the brain has no firewall for that particular system. And so now it's being used, of course, has been used by the military, and now even by scummy A&E.
How like just I don't know, creepy. I don't know if creepy is the right term for it, but I mean, they could just beam thoughts into your head, ideas into your head, which you might think are your own, and they're not even yours. And I know it was hard to hear. I threw the link in the chat room. Again, it's called Ultrasound Billboard. It's really creepy because you hear her go. You heard it, right? Yeah, I did. You hear her say, who's there? It's not in your head. I mean, that's creepy. That is just
a lousy TV show.
Yeah, dude. Now, let me ask you this. How does well, not how. I know how they have the money. Let me rephrase that. Why would they spend the money? A network. Why would they spend the money for this? Oh, it's for entertainment, dude. No. If you understand that entertainment has never been for entertainment purposes, and it's been there to manipulate you, control you, put ideas into your head that aren't your own, opinions that aren't your own, and to keep you dumbed down, then you understand what it's for. If you think it's, entertainment came about because people wanted to see morons on TV, hitting each other in the balls with, golf clubs and crap on MTV at 1 o'clock in the morning, no. That's not why TV was invented. Yeah, you're right. I mean, think about this. There was something once called pulse microwave technology, where this is basically World War II, where radar technicians, found out they could basically hear the buzz from the planes of pulses being transmitted from the radar equipment. And basically they took that technology, going back World War II, and basically using either microwave or ultra low frequency waves, and basically pushing this stuff into your head. Think about all of those like psychopath killers like that said they heard like God or the devil or dogs talking to them, over the years. I mean, this is crazy and completely ridiculous to be trying to use this technology for a lousy TV show when you don't know, maybe someone who may be even psychotic could hear this and he could flip the hell out because of it. Well, look at Berkowitz. There's evidence to prove that the guy that owned the dog that he said he talked to and got his messages from was actually his handler. And that was the guy that would program him. And obviously, he talked to a hole in the wall too. Yeah. A disembodied voice in a hole in the wall. Where does this stuff come from? People are, they're just crazy. And they get labeled as nuts, and they get locked up in nut houses or in prison, and people just blow it off as some some lone gunman, some crazy nut, and that's it. Look at JJ just had a guest on last hour, and she even said that they tried locking her up. Susan Lindauer, same thing. They tried throwing her in a loony bin and keeping her, she's crazy. That's like their fallback thing. That's the MO. Yep. Yeah, they do that a lot to CIA agents and even to people in the know, like in the establishment, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. A lot of times these guys, later on in life, they quote unquote have breakdowns. You ever notice that, Mike? They always have breakdowns later on in life, and they get put in a mental institution, lobotomized, and that's it. These guys are now drooling vegetables. And 5 years before, they were a president or a vice president or whatever. You know what I mean? Well, think about this. Something I was looking at. There was a book written by the Soviets a long time ago called Psychopolitics. I'm going to cut you off right there, We'll talk about that on the other side. Because the break's coming up. So hold that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Strap yourselves in. We're going for a bumpy ride down the rabbit hole. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, Mike, before we get cut off, you were talking about a Soviet-style brainwashing manual.
Yeah, this book, which of course I put the link in the chat room, is called Psychopolitics, and there's two versions of it. One, of course, is basically like the unabridged version. I have both versions. One is the unabridged version, and one is the abridged version. And interestingly enough, L. Ron Hubbard was involved in bringing this book to America, along with Charles Stickley. And in the beginning of the book, it has an address by the former Russian secret police head, Beria. And if you guys know who Beria is the guy who a lot of people think killed Stalin. Of course, Stalin, of course, had him killed, before, but he was one of the ones who planned Stalin's death, and a lot of people think Stalin was murdered. But this book, in vivid detail, one of the most hard books I've ever read in my entire life, vivid detail on how to create insanity, how to break human beings like you would break a horse, how to create basically like insane asylums to be used to basically put in political prisoners. I mean, this book is crazy.
You can get your local copy at the local Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. Can you even get copies of this book?
Hardback, I don't know, but I'd have to find out, because I would love to get a hardback copy of this, because I don't want to ever not have this book. There's just too many details in it for me, honestly. They talk about how they used like techniques like drug pain hypnosis to create insanity, and basically you give someone like overstimulation, anxiety until they break. I'm gonna see if I can find some of the points where I bookmarked and highlighted, because it's golden. It is crazy, and it was used by the Soviets to basically take politicians in the United States and abroad and to use them for certain purposes that they desired. And they talk about insane asylums to be used for political purposes as well. And they said also in the book that eventually the suicides will be so commonplace that no one looks the other way. I'm going to see if I can find that quote here where they talk about that, because, of course, they talk about it in vivid detail here. Suicides. Suicide.
Well, remember what we were talking about with suicides as well, how they mask suicides all the time. They they off somebody and then they say it was a suicide too.
Yeah, here's one right here. It says, any inquest into the suicide, quote unquote, or sudden mental derangement of any political leader of a nation must be conducted only by psychopolitical operatives or their dupes, whether psychopolitics is responsible or not. Death and violence against persons attacking communism in a nation should be eschewed as forbidden. Let's see here. Let me go to the next one. That talks about suicide. Oh, here we go. Instead of executing national leaders, suicide for them should be arranged under the circumstances for which question their demise, in a way that we can select out all opposition to the communist extension into social orders of the world, and render populace who would oppose us leaderless and bring about a state of chaos or misalignment. Let me find another goodie here. I mean, it's just chopped with like great detail here. Let's see.
How many of the assassins, and I'm doing air quotes, the assassins of the 60s right up till this very day have been MK Ultra mind control slaves? Remember we were talking about Sirhan?
Yes, and you showed me the video of Sirhan when he was being interviewed right after he supposedly shot RFK, and his eyes were so dilated, they were big as saucers. I know what it's like because I've studied hypnotism and self-hypnotism, and anytime you go into that sort of type of state, your eyes are dilated and they're really huge. And you can tell because he can't focus on a particular person. His eyes sort of roll back and forth as when you're in that state. You have to focus on something when you're in that state, and it was obvious. Check this out. This is a quote from the book, Brainwashing, a synthesis on the Russian textbook. It says here, the Kozak method of breaking wild horses is a useful example. It says the horse will not restrain itself or taking in the rider's commands. The rider wishing to break it mounts and takes a flask of strong vodka and smashes it between the horse's ears. The horse struck to its knees, and its eyes filled with alcohol, mistaking the dampness for blood, instantly and thereafter gives its attention to the rider and never needs further breaking. They talk about breaking humans like horses or breaking the spirit. And they talk about the stimulus response model. And I've been talking about that for years. I mean, this book is golden. I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous. But this has been going on for a long time now. And when you see people that either get suicided or go into these mental hospitals, you know, I mean, for no reason at all, it is basically the MO of some of these people. And they may not be communists at all. I mean, they may be just like, you know, political leaders or political opposition and their handlers. And the handlers just, you know, send them on back to the glue factory.
Yeah, they're horses. They're done. They
send them off to the glue factory.
Exactly. They ran their race. Look at Johnson. After he was president, he was like mentally wiped out. Reagan, mentally wiped out. He actually started his downfall while he was still in office.
I think for a large part, when certain political leaders are overstimulated because of these type of systems, they do break down over time. They break down, and it's pretty ugly.
Well, you know, talking about Reagan, you know, I don't believe in coincidence, but the guy that tried to kill him, his brother was supposed to have dinner with one of George Bush Sr.'s sons, so one of our last president's brothers. He was supposed to have dinner with him, and the father was a family friend. Like, that family was a family friend. They were, if I remember correctly, George Bush Sr. went to college, I think, with the whatever his name was, the one that supposedly did it for Jodie Foster. He went to, if I remember correctly, it was George Bush Sr. that went to college with his father, I think is the way it went. Something like that. The families were really close friends.
I've heard about that as well.
I'm supposed to believe that this was random, that this wasn't Papa Bush trying to off Reagan and get, you know, once Reagan was in, okay, we got in, I don't need you anymore, doormat, bang, and then move on up. He pretty much ruled anyway.
He did, especially after Reagan got shot. I mean, Reagan just sort of went inside himself and you know, Poppy Bush ran the whole thing. Check this quote out, Popeye. Tell me what you think about this. It says, drugging the individual produces an artificial exhaustion, and if he is drugged or shocked and beaten and giving a string of commands, his loyalties themselves can be definitively rearranged. This is called PDH, or pain drug hypnosis. This is the sort of thing that goes on in places like Abu Ghraib. It says, the psychopolitician in training should be thoroughly studied in the subject of hypnotism and post-hypnotic suggestion. He should pay particular attention to the forgotten mechanism of the aspect of hypnotism, which is to say, implantation into the unconscious mind. He should note that particularly that a person giving command while in a hypnotic state and then told while still in that condition to forget it will execute it on a stimulus response signal in the environment after he has awakened from the trance. What does that tell you, Popeye?
Dude, it tells me it's exactly what they're doing to everybody today on a daily basis. That's what it tells me.
Yeah. Oh, I don't remember doing that. I never did that.
How many times people have blackouts, memory loss? You know, I had a couple guys on probably like 6-7 months ago now, because next week's my 1-year anniversary. And this was back in the beginning when I first came on air. These guys, James Lane, and I forget the other guy. No, not James Lane. He's the one that did OKC movie, A Noble Lie. Oh, I can't remember his name now. I have to go back and look. We talked about them getting chipped. And it was one of them was an inventor, and the other one was an elected official. Oh, I can't remember their names now. I have to go back and look through my archives. And I'll look during the break. But these guys, I posed a question to them about people having lost periods of time and some other stuff. So when we get back, I'll get into the question, and I'll go look up their names so I can give them proper credit, like a good host should. Ladies and gentlemen, Stay right where you are. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, as promised when we were going to break, I couldn't remember the names of the two guests I had on last year. It was actually May 22nd of 2011. If you go to my radio show archive page on federaljack.com, it's right underneath the link for the show page for the chat and listen live, where you guys are probably listening and chatting right now. If you go to the archive page on federaljack.com, you'll see, scroll down, and it's kind of close to the top. It's May 22nd, 2011. James Lambert and Dave Larson on Gang Stalking is the title. So May 22nd, 2011, James Lambert and Dave Larson on Gang Stalking. And they were talking about how they had RFID chips implanted in them and stuff. And during the show, I had posed the question, and I don't know if it quite came off the way I wanted to. So I'm going to pose the question I posed to them again, and then I'll tell you, I'll let you answer, Mike. I had said to them, this is my own personal view, all these people getting abducted, and I didn't want, I didn't want people to think I was getting off on kind of a tangent, and I think he kind of answered the question. You'll see what I mean. I'll explain afterwards. It's better for me just to answer the question. I said all these people that were getting abducted by aliens and saying they got abducted and chips implanted in them from aliens. What if that was the intelligence agencies or whatever, organization, private organization, whatever, that they were grabbing these people and they were experimenting on them, and because they can implant false memories. They already know they can. So what if, that's why I say it would be the intelligence agencies. So what if they were the ones grabbing these people and doing the experiments on them and implanting the false memory of aliens doing it? Now, what I say is it kind of got off a little bit because I had to explain that because people were like, well, you don't believe in aliens. I thought you were open-minded. It's not that I don't believe in aliens. I'm just saying I think this rash of visitations and abductions back in the 80s and the 90s, where people were getting chips injected into them, I think a lot of that was the government doing experiments on people under the guise of the false memory implant of an abduction. That's just my take on it from years of researching it. It doesn't mean I think it doesn't mean I'm 100% correct. It just means that's the way I think. That's just one way I look at it. That's the theory I've come up with from the years of study. So I'm not trying to make anybody think that, but that's how I look at it. That they probably did that and implanted false memories. Now, we kind of got off on a tangent a little bit in the interview. I remember this, and he did answer the question, and we talked about the possibility of aliens and stuff. But I didn't want to get off the. You know what I mean? I didn't want to kind of get off on that tangent where I was going. Yeah. Was that I think that it was a false memory implant. So, what do you think? You think that's you think that's doable? I mean, personally, from what I know, it is. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, when you talk about false memories, I'll give you an example. Our brains are like so powerful. Okay, they have something which they call lucid dreaming, where you create your reality. You could be in your own action film, whatever have you, and it happens basically when you trick the brain into thinking that you're asleep. So it basically goes into the mode of a deep sleep mode, where your body just completely relaxes. And also in hypnotism, you can do the very same thing. Basically, everyone has the ability to create pictures and movies in your mind. Like if I say red rhinoceros. Right now, there's a bunch of people thinking red rhinoceros, okay? It's easy. Green pork chop. People think of green pork chop. It just pops up in their head. But when you're in a deep hypnotic state, almost like a coma state, you can create reality. You can take it away. I mean, you can create a false reality. It is so easily done. And sometimes you can create a false reality which is actually helpful to you, helpful to your self-esteem. So it would be pretty damn easily. And then you add upon it with the new technologies they have, voice to skull, et cetera, it'd be very easy to do so. Think about all the different projects that went on during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It would not surprise me that this sort of thing happened. And it'd be easy for them to say, okay, false memories, aliens, and no one takes those people seriously and thinks they're kooks when something serious might have happened to them.
Exactly. It serves two purposes. It gets people to go, nutbag, and they were able to get in and get the job done and then cover their tracks because the person only thinks that they were abducted. Like the Travis Walton story, the guy Fire in the Sky, the one they made the big movie about. I think part of the reason they made that movie was to push that mass hysteria at the time, to push that idea into people's heads, to push, oh yeah, they must be right. I mean, look, this is a real story. And I'm not saying that these people weren't abducted, and I'm not saying that aliens don't exist or that aliens don't abduct people. For all we know, they do come down once in a while, pluck someone off the planet to see what we're doing and growing. I mean, who knows? I can't say that they don't. What I'm saying is, I think a lot of these, the highly publicized cases, especially the ones the media played up in the movies and everything else, I think a lot of that was to push this idea, because at the time they were probably doing. You remember the '90s? There was this mass thing of I was abducted and implanted, and people were showing up with chips and everything else. So it was probably being done so much that they had no choice but to come up with a cover story. Remember, Prouty said, you can go look the video up. I have it on my YouTube channel, Federal Jack Tube 6. Prouty said, and you know what, I'll even try to find the audio during the top of the hour break. I'll play it during hour 2. Prouty said flat out, he talked about this stuff. In fact, I have to find the clip because you know what? I can't do it justice. Let me try to find it. He talked about all, you know what I mean, Mike? You saw the, let me play it.
Oh, yeah, I saw those 3 videos, yeah.
You saw the 3 videos. I have to. I can find. There's somebody snipped it really quick. Let me see. Prouty on the drug war. This is when he talks about it. I mean, I wish this guy were alive. Honestly, he would have been.
Oh my God!
Tell me you wouldn't have loved to interview him, just to sit down with him and talk to him. Interesting enough, who I did get to interview? I know this is a side caveat. We always get sidetracked, but we'll get back on track in a second. You know who I got a chance to interview, Mike?
Who?
Do you know who Gary Powers was?
Yes.
I interviewed his son.
Jeez, man. At one point in time when I first started doing radio, I was trying to interview, a lot of those like ex-military people who were on the inside. And a lot of those, either they get killed off or they die because they've been through hell. But like you said, man, those people knew just what the hell was going down. And they were brave enough to speak out about it and knew what they were talking about.
I'm surprised that Prouty actually lived as long as he did. I think why he lived as long as he did is because he was smart in the way he talked about it. He didn't, he talked about it, but he never named names.
Yeah, and it was kind of a matter of fact.
Yes.
It wasn't, basically shrieking about it and, trying to make a big stink or anything. He just laid it on the table and said, look at it, and walked away from it.
Yeah, and he didn't. Well, he called a spade, but he didn't. He was, you know what I mean. He didn't. He let things out, but at the same time, he didn't. He wasn't like these guys were child molesting freaks. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't.
Yeah, hyperbole and all of that.
Yeah, there was none of that. He was just very. In fact, I remember a couple times Lena Senek tried to. Lena Senek would ask him a question, and Prouty would correct him and say, like, no, that's not what I said. Prouty was very matter of fact. He was, you could tell he was military. He even acted military. He still had his military bearing even when he was a civilian and retired. But, of course, YouTube is not working with me as I would like it to. He did. I'm surprised he named Ed Lansdale. That really surprises me. His boss.
One of the things I really loved about those interviews were how the original OSS and CIA were created and what were their purposes. Their real purposes. Not this BS they're doing now, where they have unlimited power. They have their own private equity firms where they can just create their own money, by investments, insider knowledge, insider trading. But what they were originally supposed to be doing, what their real purpose was, and they're so far away from it now, it is ridiculous. Well,
the CIA, a lot of people forget that the CIA is a private corporation, Mike. It's not even, it's a private corporation that works at the behest of the United States government. They don't have any allegiance to the government. That'd be like Walmart working for the government and us thinking that Walmart was a government agency.
Which is why they were always involved in, private squabbles with businesses. Okay, go to Guatemala and, take these people down who want to strike and create unions, okay, in Guatemala. Okay, go over to Iran, and this guy wants to nationalize the oil fields, kick him out. Did the same thing in Venezuela. I mean, it's all business oriented.
It's all about the greenback, the money, the moan eye. Put on your sunglasses, just like Rowdy Piper did. You'll see, what did it say in the movie? It said, "This is your God." Remember? That's what it said.
Yeah, the money.
Wonder if he was trying to tell you something when he made that movie. You think?
Most likely. Definitely.
We should pay attention more often. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Sparta!
Hour 1 up, hour 2 coming up. Stay tuned. I'll have that clip. Hopefully, I'll be able to fight YouTube and find it for you for second hour. We'll see you in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. More with Mike Vail when we come back. We are back with hour number 2 on today's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Today is April 1st, 2012. No April Fools here. I'm hanging out with my good buddy, Mike Vail. And we've been breaking down mind control and how it's just being rampantly used on the public. Mike, during my search for the Prouty clip, which I'm going to now call the infamous Fletcher Prouty clip, because the clip I'm looking for is now MIA off YouTube, conveniently, which actually it's not convenient. YouTube's very well known for doing that and deleting stuff, so I'm sure.
And often.
Yeah, dude, like with, like extreme prejudice, they go out there with just the eye to take out info. If it's informational, it's got to go. You could put up a stupid video with some bimbette, bouncing around in a bikini, from TV, and they could care less. It'll have a bazillion and one hits. They'll put up music videos, and it gets bazillion and, 2,000 hits every 5 seconds. You put up a video about truth, and it gets, 2,000 hits every year. It's kind of frustrating, but a lot of that is because of Google, too, because they put all that other crap up on the front page.
Oh, they do. I mean, if you're some fat kid dancing to the Flashdance soundtrack with a lightsaber, you'll get a billion hits. But, you're putting out some real information, and it seems that no one cares, and you're not getting no hits, even though the information that you got is dead on. I mean, you put up tons and tons of great videos on there, which I peruse every now and then, and it's like, the truth hurts, and no one wants to hear it. But if you got some good distraction material, then, they're interested. Yeah,
if you have video of some douche riding a bicycle off the roof of his garage, into a pile of cinder blocks face first, it'll have 32 billion hits.
You got that video, man? I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Henry Kissinger ride off a roof of a garage into a pile of cinder blocks face first.
That would be awesome.
Well, in my search for the infamous Prouty clip, which I will, ladies and gentlemen, I will try to find. I know I've ripped it before, so now I have to go back through my archives, which is going to take me hours because I have a ton of folders with almost 3 terabytes of info I have to go through. So
yeah. When are you going to send me a hard drive and all that good information?
Send me a blank 3 terabyter, and I'll
sweet.
I'll hook it up for you. I sell them. But I sell them per order. I don't have them sitting around like in a closet all filled. If somebody wants one, once they place the order, then I go buy the hard drive and I do everything. Pretty soon, I'm going to have, coming soon within the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing the same thing with my my entire first year of my show. I'm going to have it all on a thumb drive in MP3 format so that you can just take it. Like a lot of people have cars now with thumb drive connections in them.
Yeah.
They can just plug it right in and they can pick whatever show they want. All of them are organized, so it's got a date, and it kind of gives you a brief description of who's on or what it's about, so you can choose. And then, and it's all in the title, so that's what'll show up on the screen. And you could do it on your computer. You could, download it, put something on your Discman if you wanted to, or Walkman, whatever. Walkman. Listen to me, I'm aging myself. MP3 player. Like, holy shit, Popeye! What are you in the 90s? You know what I mean?
No,
Your personal.
no, Popeye, it's hologram player, man. This is the 22nd century here, man.
Yeah, true. I'm still disc, man. Oh my god.
CD, tape player.
Can I tell you something? Those things were the biggest pieces of crap to work out with because tape players you can move and it really wasn't that bad. There wasn't too much distortion.
Yeah, but CD players, oh my god, it's just.
Bro, it blew. I ended up not using it because it was so frustrating. And then they didn't make at the time. You either had the earphone cord that was like 6 inches long, or you had the earphone cord that was 10 feet long. There was no happy medium. They couldn't give you like a foot long cord.
Someone should have made like the 8-track like Walkman, dude. Like, you take a step, the damn thing skips a track.
Dude, I still have a Sony Walkman, by the way, from like the 80s.
I just aged myself. I said 8-track.
I have a Sony Walkman, one of those sport Walkmen from the 80s, the yellow ones, the waterproof ones. I found it the other day in a box. I was going through some stuff. It still works perfectly.
eBay.
Bro, screw eBay. I'm going to keep that thing. That thing's awesome. I have some old tapes that I can't listen to, old radio show stuff I used to record from back in the day. I have old coast-to-coast stuff I recorded on a tape deck and stuff from the AM. I'm going to go back and try to I'm going to see if I can rig it up to run it out to an input in the computer. But I digress. Anyway, while I was looking for the Prouty clip, I came across another clip, and I've played this before. And I had forgotten about this clip, and I stumbled across it in the search for the Prouty clip here, and I wanted to get your take on it. Back in 2008, Cynthia McKinney said that somebody had told her that they executed 5,000 people after Katrina, and she thinks they might have been prisoners or whatnot. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just it's something interesting. I think people should at least hear it and go research it. If it's fake, then let's find out and end it. And if it's real, then let's expose it. And then I'll get your take on it either way, Mike. Here, check this out.
I had a woman in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. I had a woman, I've never really said this in public out loud in front of a lot of cameras, and there's a lot of cameras in this room now. But I had a mother to call me because her son had a very gruesome task. Her son's charge by the Department of Defense was to process 5,000 bodies that had received a single bullet wound to the head. And these were mostly males. And her son was afraid to talk because he had signed a silence agreement. So he only complained to his mother.
Which, by the way, somebody had made a comment in the YouTube video. Oh, they wouldn't say anything over an agreement. Yeah, right? No, it's not really an agreement. It's a contract you sign, and if you void the contract, you go to Leavenworth. Okay?
Exactly.
So it's not like, oh, I promise I won't tell. It's not a big deal. It's not like that.
Same thing they do with DARPA. A lot of them, probably like 15, 20 years.
Exactly.
Non-disclosure.
They threaten you. If you avoid this contract, you will go to jail with that, and they'll just SWAT team whoever it is in the middle of the night. All right, here's the rest of the clip.
The data about these individuals was entered into a Pentagon computer. And then reportedly, the bodies were dumped in a swamp in Louisiana. This is as a result of the tragedy of Hurricane Katrina. Now, I have and I have verification from insiders who wish to remain anonymous at the Red Cross that this is true. I suspect that these were prisoners, and so. This investigation of the whole prison industrial complex.
All right. So, and she talks about the prison industrial complex and stuff, and I don't know if it's true or not. In fact, make sure you tune in after my show today to Joe Joseph and Tim Watts because they're going to have Cynthia on live. So, and I know Tim is going to ask her that question. So, hopefully she'll be able to, tell whether or not she's got any further information on it or whatever. But at least you'll hear a live answer to the question. But, Mike, what say you about that? We got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Well, one thing I'll say that during Katrina, there were a lot of stories kind of like that, where basically the people that were either in county jail or certain state facilities, they could not process those people, and a lot of people died because of that. And so where there was they couldn't do anything to these people that were in prison. They couldn't possibly process them and put them in a shelter someplace. So it is likely that could happen.
I've seen evidence that in some cases different states have things for their Department of Corrections that if in a case something like this did happen, they would execute the prisoners. I don't know. Well, you know what? We'll get into it more when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. 3 minutes. Actually, less than 3 minutes. Very, very quick. Don't go anywhere. All right, Mike. Before we had to go to break, you were just getting into your take on that Cynthia McKinney clip. So go ahead.
Like I said, that sort of thing, it's pretty standard operating procedure. When you think about it, you got a national emergency, a hurricane or whatever have you, and you've got a prison populace that big. You can't handle those people. I mean, if someone really cared, maybe they could. But honestly, you think about it, someplace as crooked as New Orleans, of course they got shot in the head. Of course they did. Matter of fact, there was a clip in the movie The Wire, not The Wire, but the second one, the TV show about Katrina, where they talked about prisoners getting killed there. What was the name of that show? It was called Treme. The TV show Treme, they talked about it as well on the TV show.
You see, so other people know about this. It's just one of those things that comes off as a rumor or, a conspiracy theory or fairy tale or whatever the hell people want to call it. But it is plausible. I mean, when I first put this clip up a long time ago, I had people email me about it, and then I just re-uploaded it recently with the title Flashback. Cynthia McKinney talks about 5,000 people executed post-Katrina or something to that effect. And but the first part of it was Flashback, and because it was in 2008. And people are like, oh, she's crazy, she's nuts, this, that, the other thing. But they don't bother to actually go do any of the research. And when I went and researched it, I had people emailing me even from uploading that clip, and they sent me some stuff and I checked it out. And there are, like I said, I've seen evidence to support the fact that some of these states, their Department of Corrections systems, in case of if the country was invaded, they would the guards are to execute the prisoners and then go fight the enemy, basically.
Like I said, there are contingency plans, for that particular purpose. I mean, you look at Operation Endgame, which of course,
and Rex 84. I was going to say, I wonder if I should take a look back through there and see if it's in there. That's a good point, Mike.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got the document for Operation Endgame and Rex 84, and they talk about rounding up illegal immigrants and dissidents. So I mean, this is pretty much standard operating procedure. You can look at a lot of Army field manuals. This sort of thing is in there. So I mean, to me, I'm just looking, historically, and it's very plausible.
Yeah, it's not and see, again, people would, my government would never do that. No, you wouldn't do that, and you're projecting that onto these people, and you shouldn't be doing that because that is completely not the way they are. Okay, they'll pretend that that's the way they are. That's how we are, but that's not how they are, and by any means. They're not looking out for your best interests at heart. When they have plans to round you up and put you into a camp, and they will execute people. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if people say, they won't do it. They'll just lock people up. No, wrong. They will not just lock you up. Eventually, they will start offing people because they'll just be too many.
Well, they'll run out of resources.
Yeah, there'll be just too many there. So they're, logistically, they're going to have to start cutting the fat, as it were.
I mean, it's so true because you look at it. If you have a state prison, think about how many people in a state prison, and you have a national emergency, okay? and you got a bunch of, let's say, murderers. Of course, you have the drug, you know, you have a lot of people who maybe sold like an ounce of weed or something in jail for no reason. You know, a lot of those in there. But you think about killers, murderers, rapists, you know, and you're going to take all those people and you're going to get in a bus and go somewhere into a shelter. It's not happening,
Yeah,
folks.
you can't. It's not like you can just, let's take them all for a ride. Oh, that would be interesting.
Because you're going to get murdered.
Yeah, and then they're all going to get loose. And then if you think you had problems before,
you got big problems
yeah, as
now.
they say, the shit has hitteth the fan.
The feces has hit the fan blade, folks. DEFCON 4. But I mean, honestly,
I'm condoning executing people. I'm just saying
No.
that's why they would do it. But I'm not.
You have to look at it, like you said. You have to look at it in the context of history and what's plausible and what are the standard sort of modus operandi, and that's just how it is, man. I mean, what the hell was Blackwater doing in New Orleans during that time?
Practice.
Yeah.
Oh, people don't even know that. I love when I get into conversations about New Orleans and people. Well, you know, them black people, they were stealing TVs, Popeye. Well, hold on. First of all, that's what they showed you on TV. Okay, that's what they conveniently showed you. And yes, I saw it too. And at first, I was even an idiot, and I was like, "Man, look at these idiot people." They, you know, because where we live, we have hurricanes all the time, and we don't act like that. I was like, "Why are these people acting like that?" But see, we weren't on the ground. We were only seeing what CNN or Fox News or MSNBC wanted us.
The false sort of narrative. And if you're going to steal a TV set,
the Coast Guard, which that didn't happen, by the way.
Yeah, that was false.
Yeah, the Coast Guard was taking fire from people they were trying to rescue. All those stories were lies. I investigated all that. Remember, I'm a coastie, ladies and gentlemen. I know people that are still active duty. I didn't go by, and I mean, you could see that it came out later on that was lies, but I went and asked people I knew at different air stations. You know what they told me? It was all lies. Now, these are people that I know that would not lie to me. They'd be like, dude, if we were getting shot at, I would have told you. You know, it's not like they signed some government contract to not tell me. You know,
Yeah.
So that was all propaganda so that you wouldn't care about what was going on. And I'll tell you what, it worked for a while. It really worked.
Because people just thought it was bedlam. I mean, a lot of people have the turtle effect and they have the rubberneck effect, okay, where their normal everyday lives are in the turtle mode, okay? They don't give a damn what's going on around them, right? But when the media makes it look like it's, you know, a sensationalist, you know, something crazy going on, they're rubbernecking. They want to know exactly what the hell's going on. And then once they get the little false narrative, once they get the little false reality, then the government can do anything, or state government can do anything they want because they've set the groundwork, okay? That's how it goes. I mean, I like to call it the stimulus response model.
Well, you know, I'm glad we got into this because I'm going to, in a few minutes we're going to break, but on the other side when we come back, I want to get into, have you ever heard of, it's Mae Brussel talked about it. This was 1978. It was April something, 1978. It was called the King Alfred Plan.
No, never heard of it.
It was a fictional plan. It was talked about in a book called, what was it? The Man Who Said I Am or something like that. I have to look it up. I talked about it the other day. I played it on air. I can't remember the exact title of the book, but Mae Brussel talked about it. And it was this fictional, but she doesn't think it was fictional. But it was this, in the book, it was this plan that the government had to, in the case of like race riots or something, to round up black people and pretty much like put them in prison camps. And if so, start, you know, executing them. And they called it vaporizing them, I think is what they called them in the literature that she was reading. Now, it was released, check this out, it was the way it got out into the general populace was it was conveniently left, I'm doing air quotes, it was conveniently left on a subway seat. And then in New York, and then somebody picked it up and it got out into the black community. And so this is the story that they say why it's not real, but why people think it's real, is that it got out into the black community and then no one ever said, oh, it's not real. Now, Do I know? The way I look at it is, do I know if it is real or not? I don't know. But when you read when she was reading the King Alfred plan, there was stuff in there like she was talking about. She was going over, what was it, 10? It wasn't 10 FEMA regions. It was 10 something else they called it. But it was the exact 10 FEMA regions that we have now. And this was in 1978. So I'll get into that with you more when we come back. I'll try to find the part where May was talking about the FEMA regions during the break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. All right. When we went to break, I was talking to Mike about the King Alfred plan. And those of you that heard my show on Friday, remember I had talked about this. And I was talking about in reference to race baiting and everything else. And I had broke down racism. And I think it was Friday's show. It might not have been Friday. Oh, you know what? I think it might have been Wednesday's show. It might have been that long ago. I think Friday was what I did Lincoln with Steve Stars. That's it. Everything melds into one, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, it was last week. I think it was Wednesday. Anyway, Mike, I'm going to play this for you because, as I said, last segment, I think the release of this thing was kind of a psyop the way they did it on the subway, testing a certain part of the society of who this was quote-unquote aimed at, meaning the black population. At
provocation.
The time. Yeah, because this was back in the 70s. So, I mean, the date on this is April 30th, 1978 on this broadcast that she's doing. So this is, again, this is back in the late 70s. I really think they were targeting this section of them to see what would happen during a martial law style roundup, but without saying martial law, under the guise of something else. And that's what psyops are for. I mean, a lot of times it's to control people, but other times it's to see the reaction of the general public to things. It's like testing the waters. And remember, the reason I say it's a psyop is because there are things that she's talking about during the plan. You have to go listen to the whole show I did. But when she's talking about this King Alfred plan, right, a lot of the stuff in it matches things that are going on today. And like I said, she talks about the area. I think when I played it for you, Mike, off air, she says areas. It gets broken up into 10 areas. Now she's going to list the 10 areas. It's the FEMA region map. Listen to this. And this is 1978.
Now, for the King Alfred plan, the United States is broken into a map of 10 areas. The capital region, which is Washington. 2 is the Northeast region, the northern states. 3 is the Southwest region, the South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. 4 is the Great Lakes region. 5 is the South Central region, Ohio and Illinois in that area. 7 is the Deep South region. 8 is the Great Plains and Rocky Mountains. 9 is the Southwest region, New Mexico, and down in the Southern California area. 10 is the West Coast region, the North area, and the San Francisco, Northern California area. The King Alfred plan says there will be no attempt made to seal off the Canadian-Mexican border. Evidently, the Canadian and Mexican government works with our CIA enough that when we go into the operation, we'll have their cooperation. We won't seal it because they won't be able to go north or south.
Now, that was 1978. You hear what she just said? We have cooperation with the Canadians and the Mexicans. Why wouldn't the northern and southern border be sealed? Unless they considered there not to be a northern and southern border and just considered it a North American Union. And this was what, 1978?
So, in 1978, we have a homogenized northern hemisphere, another northern and southern hemisphere. Very interesting.
Right? I mean, that's not me taking something out of context. She just named the FEMA regions.
Yeah, matter of fact, most recently with the UK riots, there was an article in the Atlantic Wire that talked about the U.S. military response to London-style riots. Remember, I told you about that, and I think you and the Intel Hub guys wrote an article about it. And they had the same regions broken down and what colonels or generals were over those specific regions.
But we're conspiracy theorists because we can see patterns.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the hell, Intel analysts do. They see the patterns, whether it's like the movie or the book 3 Days of the Condor. I mean, it's all about the patterns. If the information is in the patterns where you can see them and in the context of history, you put those together, they match up, well then bingo, you win a prize.
Dude, it's really, when I first heard the King Alfred plan, I was like, I gotta sit and listen to it, because I always, a YouTube user by the name of Conspiracy Scope, again, guys, check him out. He always uploads the Mae Brussel stuff. I used to, but I can't. I don't have the full length upload right now on the channel. I'm trying to get it back, but until I get it back, I can't. So you have to go to his channel for the newer stuff. But I always go to his channel and I listen to Mae's stuff. And this one is about a half hour long, and she starts to get into it about 7.5 minutes into the episode. And my jaw hit the floor, Mike, when I heard it. I was like, when she started reading off she's like, for the King Alfred plan. Now, again, she's reading from this, the quote-unquote King Alfred plan, whether it's fictional or not. She's reading from the document that says everything, what they're going to do. And it says, and I don't know if it was in the book or if it was a separate thing that she had printed out, but anyway, it says, for the King Alfred plan, meaning for it to work, for this thing to be, to kick off, the United States has to be broken up into 10 regions, or excuse me, she called them 10 areas. And dude, as soon as she said that, I fell out of my desk chair. I had my feet up on the desk. I was sitting, chilling back, drinking my coffee, and just listening, taking notes with my notepad on my legs. And I was taking notes, and she said that, and I literally, it was like in a movie, dude. I leaned back and fell out of the chair because I couldn't believe what I just heard. I had to go back and rewind it. I was like, what? And I mean, that's when it hit me. This was 1978, and that's when I was like, wow, I wonder if this was a psyop. Now, what I was talking about on the show when I was talking about this was this whole Trayvon Martin thing and how they're race baiting, and you got Al Sharpton coming out. We need civil disobedience if you don't, if they don't arrest Zimmerman. So if there's not mob rule, which is what that is, if there's not mob rule, without any thought or any justice or anything, because we don't really know what happened, do we? Everybody, every day, the facts change, and one day the guy's a good guy, the next day he's a bad guy, the next day he's a good guy again. So we don't know, okay? And instead of jumping on the bandwagon on and off on each side, let's investigate it. Now it's being investigated by the state. All eyes are on everything. Once all the facts come out, it comes out. But you got Jesse Jackson, who in this, it's great. She even calls him out as I forget exactly what the term she used. I'll just call him a shit stirrer. But she pretty much called him out in this. And this is 78. And she says that he's compromised, he's paid off, he's useless. I mean, what say you, Mike? You live in Florida. What's your take on this, all this? Do you think that they're trying to, at the very least, I think that they're trying to inject anger and stuff into different parts of society, and they're hoping to kick something off somewhere. Because either way, they have the same solution for everything all across the board, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I think so as well, and I think it is kind of like a provocation, basically stirring up the masses, hoping to get something out of it and hoping to see all the shocking things going on and being discussed and shown in the media, which, of course, creates an impetus for them to do what they do. And so for me, dude, I mean, this information is gold dust. Check out this quote here. Let me see if I can. Let me find the name of this document here. Okay, let's see. The Center for Army's Lesson Learned from the United States Army Combined Arms Center. This is on the same level of that. It says, the historical record of the use of Title X forces in domestic law enforcement is a brief one, as the PSA intended. The prime example unfolded in 1992 in the aftermath of the Rodney King beating acquittal when riots broke out across Los Angeles. The city, unable to quell the violence, requested State Assistant Governor Pete Wilson activate the units of California National Guard under SAD, but more assistance was needed. On May 1st, President George Walker Bush signed Executive Order 12804 invoking the Insurrection Act, federalizing select units of the California National Guard and authorizing the use of active U.S. Army and Marine Corps assistance units to assist in the restoration of law and order under the Operation Garden Plot Plan. A total of 10,000 guardsmen, 1,500 Marines, and 2,000 soldiers operated under the command and control of the Joint Task Force Los Angeles under their release on May 6th. Only once has martial law existed in U.S. history following the attack on Pearl Harbor, which, of course, was also bogus. In 1941, martial law went into effect on the territory of Hawaii and lasted nearly 3 years. They laid out right there, okay? Martial law and Rodney King.
And you know what? There's a famous quote from Henry Kissinger, which I will get into when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Final segment coming up. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment. And I have this quote from Kissinger from the Bilderberg meeting in Vail, France, May 21st, 1991. Or, excuse me, 1992. Sorry. And it was recorded... or it's transcribed from a tape recording made by one of the Swiss delegates that was there. This is Henry Kissinger. I can't do a crappy Kissinger impersonation. I don't know anybody that can. He's horrible. Sounds like evil.
Pure evil, pure bottled evil.
If I tried to do the impersonation, I would probably distort what he says, so I'll just read it. Today, Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with world leaders to deliver them from this evil. One world government. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. Henry Kissinger, in an address to the Bilderberg meeting in Vail, France, May 21st, 1992.
Man. You know, funny thing is that, Henry Kissinger was involved in just so much. Whether it's what was that? The document.
The Trials of Henry Kissinger? He's a war criminal. He can't go. One of the meetings.
Oh, I've seen that documentary. Yeah.
One of the last Bilderberg meetings, the one in, I think it was Spain. He couldn't get on. He couldn't. I think they flew him in like on a private, quiet jet, like under the cover of darkness. Under a blanket in the back of a limo type thing, because if the authorities, the non-paid-off powers that be even knew he stepped foot in Spain, he'd be arrested because he's considered a war criminal. Just like Bush and Cheney are now considered war criminals by a court of law. Somewhere out by, I forget the country, somewhere out by Indonesia, in the court system, they found that he was a war criminal, and they submitted the paperwork to, I think it was The Hague, or the International Criminal Court or whatever. So they're on record as being considered in court war criminals. So that's why they get upset when you notice they've been canceling trips like going to Canada and stuff like that recently, because they know if they step off the plane, they're done, that they're going to get scooped up. So these scumbags live in fear. They really do live in fear. A lot of people think they walk around all, ha, ha, ha. Here in this country they do. They can't really do that in the rest of the world, though. It's not that simple. Wouldn't it be nice to see Cheney rounded up? Although he just got a new heart, so who had to die to give him that?
I know, right? Have you ever read the Global 2000 document?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. That of course is Hines and Jimmy Carter, the Club of Rome, etc., etc. Then there's the Memorandum 200. I mean, the guy's been involved in dirt since day one.
Dude, he's evil personified. Like, if you could, he's cancer if it's human form. That's what he is. Remember, I said that if anybody listened to the show I did on Jimmy X's show today, when I was covering for him a couple hours ago. Remember, and I've said this on my show. Remember, I've said that the country is like a human body made up of cells, and all the people are cells. And when things aren't working right, it's like a cancer cell. He is like the malignant tumor. He's the huge tumor that's just... Henry Kissinger is a tumor with feet. That's what he is. He's like walking cancer. Look at him. That's why he's so ugly. People are like, God, Kissinger is an ugly bastard. Well, when you're ugly on the inside, you tend to be ugly on the outside. I'm not saying that all people that maybe aren't attractive physically are ugly, because 9 times out of 10, even if someone is disfigured due to a birth or whatever, an accident, they're usually some of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet in the planet. But in Kissinger's case, he's ugly on the outside because he's an ugly turd on the inside.
He kind of reminds me of a Bertrand Russell type. You know, Bertrand Russell said that, wouldn't it be nice to release something like the European Black Plague in the countries every so many hundred years to sort of wipe out populations and then rebuild?
Look at Prince Philip. What did he say? Something like, if reincarnation is real, I wish to come back as a deadly virus and wipe out mankind. Something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Just look it up. Really? I mean, this is a guy of people. He's so awesome. He's married to the queen. No, they're evil. They are evil to the core. You see it in their face.
You talk about them and the so-called royal family. I mean, they were called the black nobility because their actions were so sinister. Okay. I mean, they're like kind of like the Italian Black Hand.
You want to see a good movie about that? Christopher Everard, good friend of mine. He's been on the show before. And you know him. He's got a movie called the Illuminati series. Go watch Illuminati 3. Was it Murdered by the Monarchy? So it's Illuminati 3, Murdered by the Monarchy. He goes over their past, like, their ancestry. Oh my God. When you see, and this goes on to this very day, when you see their ancestry, it's just like one after the other. They're all murderous psychopaths.
Yeah, matter of fact, Dr. John Coleman, who I've interviewed on a few occasions, actually was nice enough to send me like most of his library, and he's got a bunch of lithographs on the black nobility.
The black nobility families are no joke, and they're still in power to this day. One of them is the Sinclair family. Sinclair. Remember the dinosaur, the old Sinclair gas stations? Remember? Yeah, those people. Yeah, they're still around, just in different form. They just own things, and you don't know that the Sinclairs own it. It's amazing. You'd be surprised. I said it the other night. Actually, a great book for doing research on like the bloodline thing, because I was talking about Abraham Lincoln. Is you ever read Ike's book, The Biggest Secret?
Yes.
Even if you don't have, like I said to the listeners, you don't have to buy, if you don't want to believe his theory about the reptilian humanoid things, okay, that's fine.
But that's a good book if you just ignore that.
Yeah, even if you ignore that part, just read the rest of the book, because in the section where he talks about the lineage and the bloodlines, he did a lot of work, and he gives all the resources, and I went through all the resources, and it is just utterly amazing, the stuff that it's there. These people are all connected. All of them. And all these bloodlines go back to people in ancient Sumer. Bush is related to a guy that ruled over Jerusalem after the First Crusade. And it was, I forget, what was his name? Godfroy de Bouillon or something like that. Isn't it interesting that another crusade into the Middle East comes from the same bloodline? But that's coincidence. Yeah. Like, that's just coincidence. You're not supposed to investigate stuff like that.
No, those are called family objectives.
Yeah, exactly. That's called, look, I'm not going to live to be able to push this, but this is what you must do. And you must tell your children, and then they must tell their children, and they must tell their children. And they do. That's why they interbreed, too. They don't like when you go outside.
It's funny how, like, some of the history of those families, the black nobility, people thought that their family came from like sea monsters. That's like how horrible and cruel they were. Like the Merovingian bloodline, they like originally thought that they came from sea creatures and whatnot. I mean, these people were like just horrible people.
Dude, I'm telling you, Illuminati 3, Murdered by the Monarchs. It is, and Chris, obviously, he does an extraordinary job with his movies, but he gives you a ton of evidence, and there's even more. Like when I went and researched it further, I was like, oh my God, it's even worse than what he talked about.
Yeah.
It is. These people are just murderous psychopaths. It's the only way to describe them. And when you continue to inbreed this line, you're not really getting any genetic variant. That's why every once in a while they have to throw somebody in like Diana. Because they need some outside. Not that she's not one of these nobility families, but it's not right from the direct blood lineage. So they need something from the outside to kind of mix it up a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to start to have genetic mutations.
Did you know that the Darwin family, I have a copy of this, they actually have a pedigree family tree, like dogs, okay? But a great book to read is called Political Ponerology, a study of psychopaths. And that's how you really learn how those people operate and what they're all about.
Mike, we're almost out of time. As always, it's awesome to have you on the show. I'm going to have to have you back on sooner rather than later. But I want you to go ahead and give out your site info and anything else. If people want to email you or contact you, if they got some information they think maybe you should do a story on, whatever, go ahead and shamelessly plug yourself.
Awesome. Okay, the official website is stratrisks.com. My email is Michael Vail, actually M of Vail, MVAIL at stratrisk.com. All the Facebook stuff is all there on the website and stuff. It's all normally like Michael Vail, so it shouldn't be hard to find. And I'm always down the rabbit hole here. I think perpetually since birth, having the ability, born with the super ability to see through the bull crap, and that's my job. And yeah, I'll be on, man, no problem. Let me know.
Rock on. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my buddy Mike for hanging out with me today. Please take what we talked about today. I hope you took notes. Take it and run with it. Go educate yourself. Do your research. Remember, educate yourself. That's the most empowering thing you could do. I just want to be the motivating force that causes you to go do the research yourself so you can educate yourself and pass it on. All right, I'm out. I'll catch you Wednesday. Go check out Joe and Tim. They're coming up next. Don't go anywhere.